networks. Claim your future at UMBC.
State Circle is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
Coming up tonight on State Circle, sharp differences between the governor and lawmakers on the issue of crime.
But halfway through the legislative session, there's been no action.
These solutions don't bear immediate fruit.
Outlawing the shame sandwich.
So instead of it being taken away from students, somebody has to pay for it.
And banning plastic bags.
And that it kind of just hurts me to know that such an unnecessary product is just being put into our landfills and on our oceans and our streets.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening. The big story around State Circle this week is the debate over education funding. House of Delegates leaders are now backing an expanded sales tax as a way to pay for the Kirwan plan, as Charles Robinson reports.
Our findings were devastating. Maryland students are struggling to compete among their peers internationally. Achievement gaps based on income, race, and disability aren't closing.
The rollout of the Kirwan Commission's Blueprint for Maryland's Future was heard by 4 legislative committees. The President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House reminded their colleagues the first 3 years of funding is in place. Many of the proposals were tackled during the Commission's deliberations. It includes expanded pre-K, more career options for high schoolers, hire more teachers and increase their pay, and more school funding for some of the state's disadvantaged communities. The tentative price tag is $2.6 billion annually.
If we ask ourselves today, right now, not knowing the parent's income, not knowing the family status, not knowing the race or gender, can we honestly say today that that 2-year-old, no matter who he or she is, has the ability to maximize his or her God-given potential based on the system that exists today? Maybe, but maybe not.
So the big issue is, how do you pay for everything that's in the Kirwan plan?
The median household income in Maryland is about $84,000 a year. Our estimates right now are that if this bill were to pass, which is not a given, that at that rate, people would be paying about $3 extra a week. That's less than the price of a latte at Starbucks a week to give Maryland the best schools in the world.
We have some of the best and most highly funded schools in America. And we have provided record funding 6 years in a row. And I'm committed to doing everything we possibly can to make our schools better.
The governor has made it clear in his opinion, raising taxes is not the way to make education reforms. In Annapolis, I'm Charles Robinson for State Circle.
A frustrated Governor Hogan says he wants to redesignate his crime bills as emergency legislation. This as Democrats indicate they have no plans to pass the governor's bills. The governor's legislation would increase penalties for those who use guns to commit violent crimes. The governor says since lawmakers returned to Annapolis, another 104 people have been shot, 39 have been killed in the city of Baltimore.
And the public is literally crying out, pleading with the legislature to take these actions. But halfway through the legislative session, there's been no action. And we have legislative leaders basically saying that we're going to ignore the overwhelming will of the people and completely ignore 9 out of 10 Marylanders.
The head of the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee says Democrats are committed to reducing crime, but they cannot get behind the governor's bill that calls for mandatory minimum sentences.
The governor has got to start leading and stop polling. And a lot of the times when we're dealing with violent crime in Baltimore City and throughout our state, these solutions don't bear immediate fruit.
The governor's emergency designation would allow the package of bills to take effect immediately, but only after getting a 3/5 majority in each chamber. Lawmakers this week were asked to approve legislation calling for an end to lunch shaming, which can happen when students are unable to pay for their meals. Sue Copen says the proposed legislation calls for a new approach and accountability.
A few times I fell victim to the cold cheese or the shame sandwich, as it's commonly referred to.
The problem of lunch shaming hits close to home for Kay Alexander Wallace.
And it's not because my family was not financially able, it's just that me as a third grader, fourth grader, when I got that check from my mother or my father, I just forgot to put it on my account.
Maryland State Education Association president and Baltimore County elementary school teacher Cheryl Boast says she's been in line with students who had no clue there was no money left for lunch.
So the cafeteria workers are stuck also because they have to account for that food. So instead of it being taken away from students, somebody has to pay for it. Cafeteria workers are not highly paid in this state. In fact, many of them live below the poverty line themselves. So I've offered to pay for that.
According to the sponsor of the Senate version of the bill, Senator Clarence Lamb, not all students are so lucky.
We've heard reports where children have lunches that are thrown away right in front of them, or they're asked to do cafeteria chores, or some of them may not even be able to graduate because they have outstanding debt.
Lamb told the Senate Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee his bill would ban lunch shaming and establish consistency and clarity with how the problem is handled.
What this bill does is require that each county school system establish a meal charge policy, and also requires that there be specific communications about meal debt that is sent back to the parents as opposed to the students.
Kristen Sudzino with the Maryland School Nutrition Association told the lawmakers that while they oppose lunch shaming, they are concerned about the potential financial impact.
We've had some local counties that have implemented this. One county is seeing their lunch debt increase by $5,000 a week. Another county has seen it go from $11,000 to $382,000 thus far, and we're only a little over 100 days into the school year.
But for Kay Alexander Wallace, who has faced lunch shaming, it all comes down to getting everyone to agree to one thing.
A student's empty stomach is just as dangerous to their success, both in school and in society, as is a student's empty mind, and that we all must provide the necessary support to feed both.
In Annapolis, Sue Copen for State Circle.
Well, starting later this year, you may have to BYOB or bring your own shopping bag if lawmakers pass a statewide ban on plastic bags. Nancy Amato reports.
We are not disposable. Don't use plastic.
We will.
Ban the bags. Ban the bags.
Students who gathered outside the State House are hoping their voices will convince lawmakers to ban plastic bags statewide.
1,600,000 plastic bags are used every single second, and that it kind of just hurts me to know that such an unnecessary product is just being put into our landfills and on our oceans and our streets with litter.
Student leaders from Baltimore Beyond Plastic organized the rally in support of the Plastic and Packaging Reduction Act, which would prohibit a store from distributing plastic carryout bags at the point of sale. Durable carryout bags like paper bags would be available, but stores would be required to charge at least 10 cents per bag, not a tax, but a fee that will go back to the store.
That is also to help change people's mindset and change people's behavior, because jurisdictions that have enacted a plastic bag ban without the paper bag fee have found that people just switch to paper.
8 other states currently ban disposable bags at supermarkets, restaurants, and convenience stores. Baltimore City just passed a bag ban that has this student saying plastic bags have trashed her city long enough.
I walk everywhere, and so there's plastic bags in like our drains, and there's plastic litter in trees. It's practically everywhere. It's a huge problem because, you know, it's affecting our environment in a negative way.
With bag laws already in effect in 6 counties in the state, the Maryland Retailers Association supports the legislation, saying its retailers want one law that is uniform and straightforward.
And it's also more difficult sometimes for retailers to have to continue stocking both plastic and paper. And so we want to be able to be business friendly and consumer friendly and environmentally friendly. And the way to do that is to say, no more plastic bags, let's move towards reusable alternatives.
The bill would include some exemptions. Plastic bags would still be available for fresh meat or fish, fruits and veggies, ice, and flowers. Newspapers and dry cleaned items would be exempt too.
Many of our restaurants don't really want to put prepared foods in loose bags like French fries or loosely wrapped sandwiches into the types of reusable bags that this legislation seeks to promote.
At a hearing in the Senate Finance Committee, the Restaurant Association of Maryland spoke out against the plastic bag ban based on food safety and contamination concerns.
I don't think it's very sanitary if someone goes to the hardware, they're using the reusable bags for multiple things. They've gone to the hardware store or the auto parts store and they've put a rusty muffler in it or something like that. And then they use that same bag, because we know for a fact most people don't clean them after every use. Then they take it to the restaurant to go get their carryout order put in. And their French fries fall and spill over into the bag.
Should the ban pass, businesses who are caught giving away plastic bags could be fined civilly up to $500. I'm Nancy Yamada for State Circle.
State Comptroller Peter Francho says he is not waiting for the General Assembly to take action to deal with the growing underage vaping problem. At this week's Board of Public Works meeting, Francho criticized the FDA's decision to exempt disposable candy-flavored vaping products from its recent ban. Francho said there is a need to move quickly to deal with what he calls a serious health crisis among underage users of vaping products.
My agency will be taking swift action to implement recommendations that can be accomplished through the rulemaking process, such as requiring retailers to purchase and use ID scanning technology for each tobacco sale without the possibility of a machine override.
Francho said he is also looking at requiring an educational training program for retailers, as well as some kind of disciplinary protocol for those who repeatedly sell to underage consumers. The Senate has given final approval to a proposed constitutional amendment that would eliminate the need for the public to approve any future expansions of gaming in the state. The vote was overwhelming, 46-1. Constitutional amendments require a 3/5 majority vote from both houses. Supporters say the changes are needed to keep Maryland competitive. But Anne Arundel County Senator Brian Simonaire argued it wasn't about expanding gambling, but whether public should have a say.
I know this is a ballot question, and typically 100% of the ballot questions pass unless it's a controversial issue. So this will become law, and I'm just concerned that we're taking the voice of the people away from this.
Just for the sports betting alone, other states are way ahead of us. They've been doing it for 2 or 3 years, and we end up coming up short because we have to go through this process of going to the voters for every change that we make.
If approved by the House, the amendment will be on the ballot this November. The time to act on climate change is now, says the chair of the Senate Education, Health, and Environmental Committee. Senator Paul Pinsky's bill would speed up the timeline for getting the state to carbon neutral, in part by decommissioning coal plants and using more wind and solar.
Well, why now, only 4 years later, do we need to reset the goal and drive it even deeper? And the answer, quite simply, is the science is developed and evolved to tell us what it will take to meet the goals of the Paris Climate Accord.
And unfortunately, the administration here in Maryland has abdicated its responsibility to take on the tough issues about combating climate change. They've abdicated that responsibility. They've relied on low-hanging fruit, easy things. They have not been willing to take on the tough battles. And that's what we're doing here today with the Climate Solutions Act of 2020.
Opponents have concerns about the cost impact on utility ratepayers. For the Annapolis FACE OFF this week, we're joined by Senator Justin Reedy, a Republican from Carroll County, and Delegate David Moon, a Democrat from Montgomery County. Gentlemen, thanks to both of you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Senator Reedy, you're the sponsor of a bill that would affect the way local jails and prisons interact with federal immigration authorities, what would it do?
Well, Jeff, it would make sure that when a local jail is holding or someone's serving a sentence in a local jail that is here illegally and has a detainer placed on them by the Department of Homeland Security, that they make sure they contact and give 72 hours notice to Department of Homeland Security that the person is coming up upon a release, and then it allows them to hold that person for another 48 hours. So that they can be picked up and deported. ICE puts detainers on folks. They don't put detainers on people just because they're here illegally or undocumented. They do it on people generally that are extremely dangerous criminals who have committed other crimes or have been deported multiple times and come back. And we've had cases in Maryland where local prisons have let somebody go, local county jails have let somebody go that's a dangerous criminal, and they've gone out and when they should have been deported, and they've gone out and committed very serious, heinous crimes. And
Before
so
I get
my
to
bill
Delegate,
says,
before I jump to Delegate Moon on this, Senator, what's the practice now? I mean, is there a law that governs this statewide?
no, counties are free to do what they would like to do. These counties are places that have said we're sanctuary counties. But in my view, sanctuary, I'm not really a supporter of that idea in general. But it used to mean it's a safe place for immigrants. We're not going to be looking to enforce immigration law. But I don't think anybody reasonable can say we shouldn't be deporting illegal immigrants who've committed serious crimes. Well, I don't know why we would not want to help make sure those folks are deported. That is not, no matter what your view of immigration reform is, I don't think it includes keeping people here who are here illegally already and are committing dangerous crimes.
Delegate Moon, your thoughts on this?
So, in an ideal world, we could trust what our president says, but the problem fundamentally here is that Mr. Trump, when he ran for office, said what he was going after was violent criminals and that people who didn't fall in that category had no cause for concern. And here we are years into his presidency, we're hearing stories about citizens being detained and deported, tons of people without criminal records being processed for deportation. And yes, it is happening here in Maryland. We had a natural resources officer, so not the, quote, real police as you think about it. In Montgomery County, they came on site to someone's house for a leaf cutting or tree trimming violation and started asking questions about that resident's immigration status, and that person was processed for deportation. We had the same on our state highways when we had a woman whose car was on fire and was scared to call for help because she was scared of being processed for deportation, and that's precisely what happened. So the idea that it is just the worst and the worst that are subjected to these laws is just wrong. I mean, Frederick County, for example, lost federal civil rights lawsuit because it was going around profiling people who, for example, were just eating lunch. So we have a serious problem, and I think a lot of the unfortunate reality here is there's political grandstanding going on that's stopping us from getting a humane policy. Even people seeking refugee or asylum status here are having difficulties. So this is not a humane policy as it's been described.
Is this something that ought to be uniform? I mean, whatever the decision is, should it apply to every state law enforcement agency, every state penitentiary, and every local jail from one end of the state to the other?
Well, in my view, if we're talking about folks who've been arrested for committing crimes in Maryland, serious crimes in Maryland, and that ICE has already identified by putting a detainer on them as someone who is a dangerous person, or at the very least has been a scofflaw as it relates to immigration law and come back and forth multiple times after being deported. To me, it should be a universal policy that we want to assist them and assist the federal law enforcement in having those people deported. The instances David is speaking about, I don't know about the veracity of it, but necessarily I know that there have been issues in some jurisdictions. I'm sure there are times where somebody has overstepped and started asking about immigration status. But the point here is whatever those issues are, I think we can all agree that if someone has raped someone or has committed a violent crime, and ICE has them on their radar as someone who's been slated for deportation with a detainer, that's like a no-brainer. And in many counties, Prince George's, Montgomery County, Baltimore City, there have been instances where folks have been released when ICE said, no, we'll come get them. And they've been released and they've gone on to commit other very serious crimes. So to me, that's unacceptable. So that's why I put my bill in. I know there's a national immigration debate. I think Delegate Moon and I are on opposite sides of that issue in a way. But to be honest, most Americans want us to secure our borders and then maybe figure out what to do with folks that are here that are law-abiding otherwise.
Well, let me get Delegate Moon. I mean, is there a threshold, a level of seriousness of the case, MS-13 or whatever, where you would be in favor of deporting somebody?
I mean, look, let's be real about this. This issue has gotten hyper-partisan. But if I were to go back in time and look at the history of this issue, under the Obama administration, we did have a nationally uniform policy. It was called priority enforcement. I had a lot of issues, frankly, with how it was conducted and what was included. But just so the public understands what that policy meant for the states, it required participation with ICE when there was a crime of violence or someone who had committed multiple misdemeanors or who was a gang member. That was the Obama policy. Under the Trump policy, which was supposedly go after criminals, going after criminals was actually the Obama policy. Under the Trump policy, you have asylees, refugees, students, families that have been here with no criminal record, children being separated at the border. There appear to be no guardrails whatsoever. And so I'm sympathetic to what the senator is talking about, but the idea that our state can look the other way, and an ICE detainer, just so we're clear, no judge has looked at that. This is just take on ICE words that we should have this person turned over.
Afraid we need to leave it there. Senator Reedy, Delegate Moon, great debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we're back with the Political Roundtable right after this.
Can you tell us what you know?
Turning back now to the race for the White House.
The State Board of Elections voted Thursday to set up a new election.
It must be a very emotional day.
The world changed in the blink of an eye.
Children are at the heart of this story.
Back to the State House now for the Political Roundtable. Our Charles Robinson, joined by Ovita Wiggins of the Washington Post. Nice to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's dig in, Charles, a little bit more on the story you reported at the beginning of the program on the Kirwan Education Plan and the news of the week, which is the new funding proposal that came out of the House of Delegates. Interesting that it came in late, the way it came in, and the fact that nobody in the Senate seems to be going out on a limb for it at this point.
I don't think anybody really wants to touch how this is going to get paid for. This is an idea to basically tax services as opposed to, and as well as reducing the sales tax. Ovita, I don't know about you, but I talked to the chair of the Budget, Tax, and Senate. He says, let's see how it works itself out. I don't know if there are other plans. You know, there's been another plan that talks about, well, restructuring the tax code, but they've said they're going to do a commission to look at that because, as I understand it, there's not, you will get some money, but you might not get it all because there was some question as to whether or not they would use the sports gambling money as well. So there are a lot of floating parts. Is that the best way to call it?
Yeah, there are a lot of options on the table at this point. The Senate is taking a look at a number of bills that would raise some revenue, including they're basically having work groups to discuss raising revenue by charging tax on digital ads, charging tax on digital downloads. The digital ads idea is a novel idea. No other state in the country does it. They're also talking about sports betting, but the big news of the week was this idea of reducing the sales tax by a penny, but also expanding it to services.
The happiest people on that right now have to be business lobbyists for different industries. All of a sudden, the client's on high alert, and all these little different nooks and crannies of the economy are trying to get written out of this thing.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we're talking things from not only, an accountant to having your lawn mowed to going to the barber shop. Exactly. Yeah.
That's always one of those sticklers that, well, who text the other guy behind me, not
Absolutely,
me.
the guy behind the
Exactly.
tree. Ovita, tell us about, there's a bill involving ethnic hairstyles. What does it do?
Yeah, it actually had a hearing in the Senate this week. It would ban discrimination against people who wear natural hair. It's called the Crown Act, which stands for, I think it's creating respectable and open worlds for natural hair. I was trying to remember that.
We're talking about everything from, we're talking about dreadlocks, we're talking about twist, and anybody who has something that is natural but may seem unnatural to somebody else.
Yeah.
And Exhibit A is Charles's hairstyle,
There you go.
without objection. Well, very good. You can read Ovita's reports in the Washington Post and at WashingtonPost.com. Charles and Ovita, hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
And that is our program for this week. Tune in every week at this time as we bring the State House to your house. You can also connect with State Circle online. Streaming videos of our program, they can be found at video.mpt.tv. And please follow us on Twitter at MPT News. Monday on Direct Connection, the latest advances in heart health. Expert answers to your questions Monday night live at 7. Now, for all of us here at MPT, I'm Jeff Salkin. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
TV Worth Watching is supported by the members of MPT and by...
We're the people that answer the phones at 2 in the morning when the building's down and there's no air conditioning, plug the leaks when there's a major leak in a building. We're the folks that keep people comfortable inside of office buildings that make a more productive workforce.
71 acres in downtown Baltimore devoted to learning, discovery, care, and service. We train the professionals who secure the health, well-being, and just treatment of Maryland citizens. We create the knowledge that cures disease and strengthens communities across the state and around the world. UMB makes the world more just, more enlightened, healthier, and more humane. We are UMB.
Our children's futures start at a very young age, and Catholic schools prepare them for that future. Academic excellence with the belief that all students will succeed.
Discover the difference. To learn more, visit archbalt.org/schools.
On Masterpiece.
I was wondering if there was anything you needed in town.
Perhaps I could walk with you?
Babington, you are the world's worst carriage driver.
So, you found a reason to stay?
Yes, I believe I have.
Sanditon on Masterpiece.
Sunday night at 9 on MPT.
Public Square on MPT. It's TV worth watching.
Shake Your Groove Thing at MPT's Rhythm and Soul Concert, featuring the Tramps, Peaches and Herb, Maxie Nightingale, and the Motortown All-Stars bringing all the great Motown hits. Don't miss the party. Call 1-800-222-1292 or visit mpt.org/tickets.
On the next Chesapeake Collectibles.
The engraving on this is superior. The story is beyond belief.
It's a pretty rare form, and I would call the size monumental.
It's really an allegory of the Franco-Prussian War.
Wow, really?
Yeah, really.
I'm Rhea Fiken. Join me for Chesapeake Collectibles this week.
Monday night at 7:30 on MPT. TV Worth Watching is supported by the members of MPT and by
It's a great time to get even. Falstaff's plan to woo the wealthy women of Windsor is met with hilarious retaliation in Shakespeare's delightful comedy, The Merry Wives of Windsor. On stage at Folger Theater in Washington, D.C. through March 1st. Tickets at folger.edu. Annapolis Opera presents Carlisle Floyd's powerful tragic opera Susanna. An innocent girl is a target of vicious gossip, which leads to disastrous consequences. Learn more at annapolisopera.org. Gifts to the MPT Foundation provide essential funding for our